everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today's video I am really hoping is going to be extremely useful for a lot of aspiring flight attendants and cabin crew out there. I know this video would have been so useful for me as I had absolutely no idea where to begin with application and had no idea what I actually needed to be cabin crew, and I do get questions on the daily about this, so I thought I'm just going to put together a video that has everything that you need to know before you apply for cabin crew. So I really hope this is useful, and also with the fantastic news that we received this week regarding things returning to normal, hopefully, I just hope that this is positive news for the aviation industry, and hopefully that means that we are becoming closer to airlines opening up their applications again for new cabin crew. So this is the kind of video I think we need, and this is the perfect time to bring it to you guys. So I really hope you enjoy and find it useful. So last night while I was sat in bed, I put together a little essay of all of the points I wanted to include in this video. It looks like a lot, but I just wanted to include absolutely everything you need to know, but also summarize it at the same time so it makes sense for you guys. But as I said, I would have just found this video so useful before I applied for cabin crew, as I went into the whole process totally blind, and there's a lot of things that I actually missed out and that made me really stressed during the process, which isn't necessary. So yeah, let's get started. So firstly, I'm going to mention some of the things that you actually need for your application for cabin crew, and there is a lot of confusion around this, so I'm going to clear everything up. So the qualifications that you need to be cabin crew are two things: maths and English GCSEs. That is all you need. You don't need anything to do with travel and tourism. You do not need at all. Any cabin crew related qualifications you don't need. There's a lot of confusion about that. It's useful, so if you want to do it, definitely go ahead, just to get a head start in the industry and your training, I guess. But it's not needed. They don't look for that on your application. And with your maths and English GCSEs, make sure you have certificates as proof of those, as they will ask for those on your interview. So secondly, you need to make sure you are eligible to work in the UK, so you need to have a national insurance number. You also need to have a valid passport. So for myself, mine was coming to the end of its validation, my passport, so I got a brand new passport before I even applied, so it had a good 10 years on it, and it was something I didn't need to worry about for a long time.
I totally forgot to mention that alongside your passport, you need to be able to obtain a US visa at the US Embassy. The airline that you apply to will give you full instructions on everything you need to do to apply for one. Once you have applied, you will book a day to visit the US Embassy for an interview. Once your application is successful, you will send off your passport to acquire your visa, which you can have posted back to you once completed. This all sounds confusing, but your airline will give you full instructions on everything you need to do to acquire your US visa, so do not worry too much.
And you also need to be age 18 or above, and the reason being is because you are serving alcohol on board. That's the same with any industry that involves alcohol. And the final thing you want to do before you apply for cabin crew, and that's the same with any job, is to make sure your CV is up to date. So you want to make sure you sell yourself on your CV, not give too much away, but just make it nice, short, sweet, and tailor it to the job of cabin crew. So just say to them why you want to be cabin crew and a little bit of background about yourself and your work history. Another thing I want to add on to that as well is a lot of people ask me, do you need customer service experience before you apply? And it is something they look for actually when you apply, is customer service experience. You don't want to go in there completely blind, never dealing with customers before. So definitely while you're waiting, get a customer service job in any sector just to get some experience face to face with customers, and all airlines will love that. So the next part is the exciting part, and that is you want to research into the airlines that you are looking to apply for and just see which one is going to be right for you. You want to consider whether you want to work just long haul, whether you want to work just short haul, or whether you want to do both, as that is an option with a lot of airlines out there today. So another thing you want to consider when you're researching into different airlines and the bases that they fly from is the commuting time. So coming from myself, I am an experienced commuter. So I commute an hour and 20 minutes drive from my house to London Heathrow Airport. And trust me, even though my commute is not the longest in the world, it is super tough. The reason I'm saying to consider commuting time is because with pretty much all airlines out there, you have to do standby. And standby is where you are on call. So that can be from the airport, so where you drive to the airport and you sit on call at the airport, so that's fine. Or you are on call from home. And the minimum amount of time that I think most airlines call you from is 2 hours. So they give you 2 hours to get from home to the airport in that briefing room. So it's not much time. So if you live, say, 2.5 hours away, you then have to drive that little bit closer just so you are within the minimum time frame to reach the airport. So it is something to consider, and standby is one thing that I did not know was going to be involved in the job. So yeah, definitely consider that. It's very important. One thing that a lot of commuters do that commute from 2 hours plus away from the airport on standby is they go and sit at service stations. So if you have quite a few service stations along your commute, then that can be useful for standby. Or worst comes to worst, you can just end up driving straight to the airport for your standby. So it is a little bit inconvenient if you do live more than 2 hours away from the airport. So just consider that one. So the final thing you want to do when researching into different airlines is look at each job specification carefully for all of the different airlines that you are looking into applying for. The reason being is because they are all slightly different in their own way. So what I did to make things easier for myself was I made notes for each one and just weighed up the pros and cons for all airlines that I was looking into. And that just helped me figure out which was going to be the right airline for me and my lifestyle. So now you have picked your airline, you want to start the application. So it's very simple. So it's pretty much fill in your details, send your CV off, and then what you do is you complete a short online assessment, and that's purely just to work out if the lifestyle of cabin crew is going to be for you. It's just to give you a little indication, just so you know in the early stages whether it's right for you, to avoid disappointment. So it also helps the airline to work out if they think you're going to be the right candidate for them as well. So you complete the application. It's not a long-winded process at all, and then you have to wait to see if you have been accepted for an interview. So the time between you applying and receiving a success email for an interview is relatively short actually. It's nice and quick, especially if they're doing mass recruiting. So wait for your email, and then you can book a date that suits you and that you can book off work with your current job as well. So the interview itself is a whole day. So for my interview, I think it was around 8 o'clock in the morning till about 2 p.m. So it's a long time. So you want to be fully prepared for that day. That is going to be a long one. So the interview itself, I'm just going to run over very briefly what it consists of. So the interview consists of, firstly, a height test to make sure you are not too tall, not too short, and that you are within the right height requirement. So that's one of the first things they'll do. They'll also do a reach test, so from one end of your arm to the other. There is reasons for it. It seems silly, but it's hard to explain if you are not cabin crew, basically. So yeah, there's a reason behind everything they do on the interview day, basically. What they will also do is an appearance check, where they will check you head to toe for things like visible tattoos, visible piercings, and hair colour, all sorts of things. And as probably a lot of you may know, that physical appearance is very important when it comes to being cabin crew, and each airline will have very strict requirements that you need to meet, and they will display this on their job specifications. So this is why I'm telling you that it's very important to read through everything before you apply. So once all that is done, you will do a group activity, and you will also do a one-to-one interview. So it could be in any order. This is general as well for most airline interviews out there. So group activity, you don't want to be too much. You don't want to come across too bossy. You just want to be yourself and just, again, sell yourself and show the airline your personality and how you work well as a group. That's all they're looking for. And in the one-to-one interview, that's where they'll go through your history on your CV and just personalise a one-to-one conversation around you. And again, this is a chance to sell yourself on a one-to-one basis. So a lot of people find a one-to-one interview quite daunting, but the good thing is to do is just practice at home with a parent or a sibling or a friend, as a lot of the questions are like any other job. So what are your strengths? What is a example of when you went out of your way for a customer in the past? Just things like that. So you can literally go online and research general interview questions and just prepare yourself that way. It's just a good way to do it, and at least you'll go into the interview with experience, practice, and you'll know what to expect. But just treat it as just a chat, not as an interview. That's how I did it. So as I said, just sell yourself and overall enjoy the interview day. It's a really fun day. It's nice and chilled. They will make you feel relaxed, and it's a good opportunity to make friends as well, as there will be a lot of you there that will be interviewed. So once you've had your interview, all I will say is just be totally prepared to wait some time to receive your email, whether you are successful or not. So I had to wait 2 weeks to get my email, whereas I know some people that I trained with had to wait longer. Some people had to wait less time. So yeah, just be prepared that you have to be patient. So once you get your email to show you have been successful, this is the longest process throughout the whole application. And patience, as I said, is key throughout all of this, because it seems like the longest 6 months of your life, but it is so worth the wait. So I'm going to explain everything that you do between your success email and when you start training now. So one of the first things you will do is go through a medical check. So the reason for the medical check is just to ensure that you are fit to fly, as unfortunately not everyone is. People don't realise it, but flying has such a massive strain on your body, so in so many ways. So before you go for your medical check, you'll be asked to bring along with you your medical history. So you can ask this from your doctor or GP. It just has everything that you've been seen for in the past by your doctor. So any medical checks that you've had with them or your vaccinations, just for the medical examiner to go through. So some of the things that are included within your medical check are firstly a sight test. So you need to have 20/20 vision with or without glasses. As vision is very important. You need to be able to see long distance on a plane. So even though I don't have 20/20 vision without my glasses, I cannot see distance at all. As long as I wear my glasses while I'm working, they are happy with that. You will also be drug tested for obvious reasons. You cannot have any sort of drugs in your system. And in general, you'll have a physical health check. So that's when they'll go through your medical records and just ask you any questions about anything you've been checked for in the past. So there are some medical conditions that you cannot have to be a flight attendant. So for example, one of those is anemia. You cannot have anemia and be a flight attendant. The reason being, I believe, is because you have to be administered oxygen at altitude, I believe, if it is severe cases. So if you're a flight attendant, you cannot be administered oxygen for that whole flight. It's just not possible, and work at the same time. So if you have anemia, I'm very sorry, you cannot be a flight attendant. However, some examples of medical conditions that you can have and still be a flight attendant are asthma, if it's mild asthma then yeah, or anaphylaxis, so if you have any allergies, as long as you carry your EpiPen or your Ventolin inhaler with you for both of those conditions, you can work and be a flight attendant. So the reason for the physical check is just to make sure that the medical examiners are happy that you are fit to fly, and just to avoid disappointment at a later stage in the application. And at the end of the day, your health is at most important before flying. So unfortunately, there are some cases where people are disappointed, but your health does come first. And the final thing they'll do at the medical check is just make sure you have all the vaccinations that you need. So some of the vaccinations that you need are yellow fever. You also need hepatitis. They will run through your medical records to see if you've already had these vaccinations, and if not, administer those to you on the day of your medical check. This is just to make sure that you don't catch anything that you shouldn't do while you're away in different places across the world. So for those of you that are wondering, most airlines have their dedicated medical experts that are on site, normally at head office, to go through all of this with you, as they are experienced flyers, as well as they are trained doctors and nurses, so they are very knowledgeable and know their stuff. So alongside your medical check, you will also have your uniform fitting. So this is where you get all of your sizing for all of the different pieces of uniform that you need, as well as have certain things tailored for you as well, just to make sure the uniform fits like a glove. As I mentioned, appearance is extremely important when you're cabin crew, so uniform fitting is very important. Once you have your uniform fitted, you won't often receive your uniform until after you've started training, so it can feel like a lifetime until you get it. But once you get your uniform, things feel totally real, especially when you start wearing it. So for certain airlines, not all of them, do require you to buy some external items to form part of your uniform. So things like suitcases and carry-on luggage, some airlines do require you to purchase those yourself. And some airlines also ask you to provide your own shoes as well. So as cabin crew, you need two types of shoes. So the first pair of shoes you need are heels. So that's for the terminal, for boarding and for disembarking as well. And then the other pair of shoes that you need are some flat shoes. So this is for in-flight in the cabin. The reason why you need the flat shoes is purely for health and safety. You cannot work and run around delivering food and safety related tasks in heels. So flat shoes are very important. You want to make sure you get shoes that are extremely comfortable, as you'll be doing a lot of walking, a lot of running around. So I will link below in the comments a website that does really comfortable shoes in all different colours to suit all different airlines. So they are called crew shoes, I believe. So yeah, I will link them down below. So if you are looking for, just in general, a nice pair of heels or comfy pair of shoes, then that is the website to go to. But they are specifically shoes for cabin crew and flight crew. So yeah, that's something I didn't actually know. I don't know why I wasn't told it at the time, but I didn't actually get my shoes until probably a couple of days before I actually had to start wearing my uniform. So it was a very rushed last minute job that, as I mentioned to you, didn't need to be stressful. I needed to be told that early on so I could be prepared. The other thing as well, I just got a really cheap suitcase from eBay, and I just wish I'd spent a little bit more on a nicer suitcase, which I now have done. So I definitely recommend Samsonite for those suitcases, for those of you wondering. That's the one I have anyway. One thing I also wanted to mention alongside of the uniform fitting is this is a really good time to start working on your fitness, as cabin crew is a very demanding physical job. So I didn't actually do this, but it's just a tip from me, is maybe start going to the gym, or if you can't afford the gym, just do some home workouts to just build up your strength a little bit, as you do a lot of lifting and a lot of pushing trolley. So having some strength going into the job is really useful for that. So the final thing you have to go through before you start your training is background checks. This is one of the longest processes. This is the factor that makes it take so long before you start your training. So for me, I actually had to wait 4 months from my success email to when I started training, which isn't actually that long, but for some people it can take 6 to 12 months, even more than that, as they just constantly get pushed back because their background checks are taking so long. So even though mine was quite short, just be prepared that it might not be the same for you, and it's not the same for everyone. As you're probably aware, the aviation industry is very hot on safety and security. So this is a very important part of your application to make sure, again, you are the right candidate to be involved in the industry. So they will do background checks from present day back 5 years. So for me, I was still in school at that time and I was in college. So it was, I think, only 4 people they had to get in contact with. So my school, my college, my first and my second job. So it was actually relatively easy for me. However, if you've had a lot of employment within the 5 years that they're looking into, it can be quite a lengthy process, I'm sure you can imagine. So if you can help out the background checkers as much as possible, just give them as much information, as many contacts as possible that you can give them to help them reach each employer or each education, then that will really help the process speed up. So for me, I was contacting them at least once or twice a week, just to check in to see how things were doing, to see if I could help them in any way, shape or form, especially if they didn't come to me with any updates as well, as they are very good with updating you on how things are coming along. One thing I want to mention as well, if there are any gaps within that 5-year period, for instance, where you were unemployed, you will need to get a reference to prove what you were doing within that gap. So that's another way that you can help the background checkers, is if they have nowhere to go to in terms of trying to find a reference for that particular gap, then they're a bit stuck themselves. So if you can help them out with that kind of thing, that's extremely useful for both them and you. So nothing is better than when you receive the call from the background checkers to say you are all clear, and they will pass that on to your airline. There is nothing better than that. So that's when you know that you'll be getting a date relatively soon for your training. And that is so exciting. And if you've made it to that stage, then well done. You should be so proud of yourself. So moving on to training now. So I will skim over training. If you want me to do a video dedicated to the training process, then let me know in the comments and I will do that for you. So for most airlines, training lasts approximately 6 weeks. It can be less, it can be more. So that's the approximate time it takes. For me, it took 6 weeks. So you cover things like firefighting, evacuation training, medical training. You also cover survival skills, so how to survive if a plane crashes in the middle of nowhere, basically. Safety and security training as well is very important. And finally, of course, you are given some customer service training on how to deliver the service on board. So basically, you are trained to deal with any kind of situation that you are faced with on that aircraft. All I will say is during the 6 weeks, you have to stay focused and motivated as you do a lot of both theory and practical exams. You have to pass them. You are given the opportunity to fail maybe 1 or 2, but if you are frequently failing, you can be dismissed. So until you pass training, it's not set in stone that the job of cabin crew is yours. So one of the most fulfilling parts of the whole process is when you finish your final exam. So once you've completed your training, you will have a graduation ceremony, which most airlines call your wings day. So you get your little wings badge to go on your uniform, as well as a certificate to say you are trained cabin crew. And yeah, it's one of the most, as I said, fulfilling days, and you are so proud of yourself for staying so motivated throughout the whole challenging, stressful, tough process that you've just been through. And you kind of think back like, did I really just do that? Like, it is very fulfilling. And once you have your wings day, you'll have a couple of days off, and then you'll pretty much be thrown straight into flying, where you will have your supernumerary flight, where you're just an extra person on your first day, where you can just observe and watch everything put into practice. And that's when you can officially say you are cabin crew. So I'm approaching my 2 years of being cabin crew now. I've just done my second recurrent training, and even to this day, I absolutely love my job. I don't even see it as a job. It's just so much fun. The lifestyle of cabin crew isn't for everyone, so that's why everything I've just explained, make sure you work out if it is going to be the right lifestyle for you, as it is a massive change in your life when you do go through the process of becoming cabin crew, and it takes time to adjust. So I would say the first 6 months to a year of being cabin crew is purely just spent adjusting to being cabin crew. It takes a long time to adjust, and a lot of people do leave within that first 6 months to a year, but just give it time. That's all I can say. That's the one bit of advice I would give to you, is give it time. And once you are settled into the job, once you are confident, you will love it. So I hope everyone who is watching that is aspiring cabin crew, I hope you are all successful and have found this video useful in preparation for your application and interview and training, and I hope just it all goes well for you. I actually really enjoyed making this video today. I think it's because I know it will be useful for people who were like myself 2 years ago, who had no idea where to start with my application or what I needed. So if you found this video useful and you liked it, leave a like down below to let me know. And also let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this from me in the future, and what kinds of videos you'd find useful as well. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in a video very soon.